On August 17, 1966, 29-year-old Anna left her home in Calgary, Alberta, with nothing more than a few belongings, a bus ticket, and a sense of purpose she never explained. She was bright, private, and fiercely independent. The kind of woman who carried secrets with the same ease she carried a suitcase. She boarded a bus headed south. Where exactly she believed she was going, no one knew. Why she left, no one understood. All her family had were fragments, a quiet goodbye, a glance over her shoulder, and the promise she would return. But Anna never came home. For months, her family waited. Letters went unread. Phone calls went unanswered. The longer the silence grew, the more unsettling the shape of her absence became. By winter, the cheerful, determined young woman had become something else entirely. A name on a missing person report, a file in a drawer, a question that seemed too heavy to lift. At her family's kitchen table, there sat an empty chair that her mother never stopped setting, and then 2 years later, the desert answered, just not in the way anyone hoped. Because what investigators found in the sand told one story, but what they didn't find created an even darker one. In March 1968, nearly 2 years after Anna vanished, construction workers near Henderson, Nevada were clearing land when one of them struck something buried just beneath the surface. It wasn't a rock. It wasn't debris. It was a suitcase. Inside the suitcase, investigators found women's clothing, a purse containing Anna Sylvia Just's identification, and blood-stained garments, partially dried and partially hardened by heat. The items had been intentionally buried, pushed deep into the dirt as if someone believed the desert would swallow secrets forever. For the first time, the case had direction. Anna had reached Nevada. Anna had been in danger, and someone had gone to great lengths to erase her from the earth. But despite the massive discovery, the most crucial element was missing. There was no body, no remains, no sign of where she had gone after the suitcase was discarded. No timeline, no suspect. Investigators questioned locals. They traced bus routes, border crossings, and old employment records. Rumors circulated that she may have come to Nevada seeking money from a man known to her family, a man with alleged connections to organized crime. But rumors were not evidence, and evidence, they learned, was as scarce as shade in the Mojave Desert. The suitcase was all they had, a clue, buried, a life, missing, a trail, cold. The desert had given them a whisper, but it had stolen the voice. What they did not know was that Anna's story was already lying in the dirt, just a short distance away. 2 years after the suitcase was unearthed, in 1970, another discovery shook the quiet outskirts of Henderson, a shallow grave. Inside lay skeletal remains, partially preserved by the dry desert air. The bones were fragile, sun-bleached, and scattered by time. But one detail was unmistakable: a depressed skull fracture, blunt force trauma, a homicide with certainty. The gravesite matched the general location where Anna's belongings had been found. The time frame matched her disappearance. The violence matched the fear her family had lived with since 1966. And yet, no one could prove the remains were hers. DNA testing didn't exist. Dental records were partial. The clothing was too deteriorated to identify. There were no fingerprints, no witnesses, no missing person report in Nevada to compare it to. Police could not tie the remains to Anna. Her family, nearly 1,000 miles away, had no idea a grave in the desert might hold her. Her life had split in two: a missing woman in Canada, a murdered Jane Doe in Nevada. Both cases ran parallel for half a century, each missing the one piece that would explain the other. Anna Sylvia Just was gone. Her killer was free, and her story lay undiscovered beneath dust and silence. It would take 55 years, and a sister in her late 90s, to bring the truth back to life. Before we continue, help give forgotten victims a voice. Subscribe and stay updated on cold cases revealed. By the 1980s, most investigators believed the case would never move forward. By the 1990s, many had retired. By the 2000s, the case was barely more than a faded folder in 2 separate archives. But the universe has a strange loyalty to unfinished stories. In late 2024, the Calgary Police Service launched a review of long-term missing person files. When Anna's file resurfaced, something unusual stood out. Her belongings had been found in Nevada. Her disappearance date lined up with the unidentified remains discovered in 1970. Yet no one had ever considered a DNA comparison, because at the time, no relatives had been located. Now, nearly 60 years later, investigators wondered, was Anna still a mystery because of a lack of evidence, or because her family line had gone silent? Determined to find out, detectives began searching for Anna's last living relatives, a task complicated by decades of immigration, name changes, deaths, and incomplete genealogical records. Weeks passed, then months, and then they found her, a single surviving sibling, a sister, a woman in her late 90s, living quietly, unaware that the answers to her sister's fate had been buried in the Nevada desert for half a century. When detectives contacted her, she agreed without hesitation. "I'll give you whatever you need. I just want to know." A cheek swab, a sample mailed across borders, and a chance, the first real chance in 58 years, to reunite two stories separated by time, distance, and silence. What the DNA would reveal was more shocking than anyone expected. In 2025, forensic genealogists analyzed the DNA sample. The results came back definitive. The unidentified remains from 1970 were a direct familial match to Anna's sister. The woman in the shallow grave was Anna Sylvia Just, 59 years after she boarded a bus in Calgary, 57 years after her suitcase was found in Nevada, 55 years after her bones were buried in the desert. Anna finally had her name back. Investigators reviewed everything again. The fracture indicating homicide, the buried belongings, the disappearance, the suggestions she may have sought out a man with rumored ties to organized crime, the suspicious timeline. The location, they pieced together the story, or at least the bones of it. Anna traveled to Nevada sometime after August 1966. Someone harmed her violently. Her clothing and belongings were buried separately to hide evidence. Her body was buried in a shallow grave. And for decades, her case slipped into the empty spaces between jurisdictions. And yet, even with the identification, one truth remained. No suspect has ever been publicly named or charged. The desert had given answers, but justice remained missing. And still, investigators believe there is one final, haunting question left behind in Anna's wake. Now that her identity is confirmed, investigators and her surviving family are left asking the same chilling question. Who killed Anna Sylvia Just? The evidence points to homicide. Her injuries confirm violence. Her belongings were intentionally buried. Her body was hidden. Someone erased her, carefully, deliberately. Rumors linger of a man Anna may have known, someone she allegedly approached for help, possibly financial assistance, before her death. Rumors tie him to organized crime figures operating in Nevada during the late 1960s. But rumors are not indictments. He died decades ago. If he was involved, the truth is buried with him. If he wasn't, then Anna's killer may still be a ghost living in the cracks between jurisdictions and forgotten files. What remains today is the story of a woman who vanished, a family who never stopped wondering, and a case that waited patiently for science to catch up. 59 years after she disappeared, the world finally knows. Anna Sylvia Just did not walk away from her life. She didn't start over. She didn't disappear by choice. She was murdered, she was hidden, and she was forgotten until now. If you believe more cold cases deserve this kind of attention, if you think every unidentified victim deserves their name back, subscribe, comment, and share this video. Your engagement pushes these cases back into the light, where they belong.